It's going to be done when it's done. You just have to keep going. And the only reason we're never there yet is because we decide to stop trying.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. And when we do talk about it, many of us, including me, are not very good at it. So, one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations, and hopefully better conversations with attempt survivors. I'm going to keep trying. Now, we are talking about suicide. This may not be a good fit for everyone. Please take that into account before you listen. And of course, you can always hit stop or pause. We do hope you listen because there's so much to learn. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to share your story, I'd love to talk. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com or on Facebook or Twitter @suicide noted. And if you are feeling especially generous, in addition to listening and sharing it with your friends or other people who may need to hear it, if you listen on Apple, rating, reviewing, or subscribing, or any combination of those really does help. It helps people find this podcast, people that really may need to hear it. Also, if you want to make a financial contribution, we've got a Patreon page. I'll put that information in the show notes. That always helps too. Either way, whatever you choose to do, thank you. Today, I am talking with Erin. And I should tell you, we did have some issues with our microphones, so my part of this conversation sounds a little weird, but Erin sounds great. Erin lives in Ontario, Canada, and she is a suicide attempt survivor. Erin, you are in Toronto, is that right?
I'm in Toronto, yep.
All right, nice city.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it here.
Yeah. People will not see you because it's a podcast, but I assume it's okay to let people know you have several really cool tattoos.
I do.
There might be a story there.
Yeah, totally.
And you reached out and we're connecting. Podcast is about suicide, so let's dive in.
Sure.
If it's okay, and I'll ask you, how many attempts do you have?
I would say 2. I had this recent realization, like the attempt is always something, I don't know if other people find this, but I carried around in my back pocket. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, it's like this big thing and it's very hard to connect with others over. It's shameful to talk about, makes other people very uncomfortable. And I was something I just kind of swept under the rug, but I held on to, I don't know, there's something, this is for something. So I had this very recent realization, like a few days before I joined the group, where I have always been reflecting on this first attempt. And it was a drug overdose. I struggled with a drug addiction most of my life since I was 14. I mean, I started using drugs when I was 14. It seemed to turn into addiction as I got older, but I was using drugs my whole life. I was in an unhealthy relationship with, my ex, with myself. I was using drugs. I had a daughter when I was 25, very unprepared. I had tons and tons of support, tons of love, but so much of my own healing was molested by a teacher when I was young. Like so many of that stuff, I just kind of put to the side. And I think it all just kind of caught up with me. Sure. So I was in India. I had this drug overdose. I was in a fight with my ex and I was already high. I had done cocaine. I had bought some heroin like the day before, not expecting to do it, but just thinking it gave me some sense of power to have it because I knew I shouldn't. I knew it's like that was the one thing that you don't ever do. And we were in this big fight. I just needed some space to think. And I went into this guest room and I was sitting on the bed. And I remember thinking to myself all of a sudden, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I recalled this just the other day. This was my thing I was suddenly thinking about. And I thought, that wasn't a drug overdose. Like, yes, it was, but that was actually I was done. I really had this kind of hit
Yeah.
where I was like, whoa, that was actually an attempt of suicide.
You'd done cocaine, you're with your ex. Obviously not then, he was not your ex, presumably. So I just want to be clear, you bought the heroin and then you sat down and you decided you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you might not have an answer to some of these questions, but was there something about that day or that moment that was different than the day before or the moment before where you're like, no, I'm done?
I just felt so frustrated inside and not able to get out from under myself, really.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say my life situation, but I take full responsibility for everything that I did. I just felt so tired of the struggle. I think that's what it was. Like, I really felt like I had been struggling for quite a few months and years, really. I just suddenly felt like exhausted by it. The weight of the pain. It's funny because I have a daughter, and so much of my inability, I think, to actually see this as a suicide was I just wasn't ready. Like, I just could not even face that was maybe what I had done. I just felt so much shame and guilt from it that it was just overwhelming, And I think maybe now I'm at the point where I'm ready to accept that and see it and work through it. It was like in that moment, it's like I had amnesia. I did not remember I had a family, didn't remember I had a daughter. It was like in that moment, I became completely disconnected to everything. And I just felt completely alone, so alone that it's like I didn't even remember that I had anybody. As I reflected on it, it was very, very odd, like a very odd place. Yeah, I took the heroin.
Okay, so once you make that decision, that's what compels you to take the heroin.
Yeah.
You thinking that would be, you would die.
Not that I would die, but I just wouldn't be there anymore. Like, I don't know where I thought I would be. I just needed to leave my life, which pretty much is that. And I took the heroin, and I don't really remember much after that. I remember going out and standing on the deck of our little guest house we were. And the next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital. And I remember kind of, because I couldn't open my eyes, I was sedated. Coming out of a coma, I remember thinking to myself, shit, like, what the fuck did you just do? Way to go, Erin, And then it was the weight of that. So that was hard.
Did you ever find out, presumably, what happened? So you took it and you blacked out something. You were out. How did you get to the hospital?
So apparently I kind of got super nauseous and I said I wanted to go to bed.
Yeah.
We went to bed. Apparently I wanted to sleep in that guest room, and my ex was like, no, I want you to sleep in the bed with me. Thank God. That was pretty much the reason I am alive. He said he woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of a bad sound, which was my lung collapsing.
Wow.
And he's had some nursing training. So he said my lips were blue, color was not good, wrapped me up in a blanket. And thankfully, because we were in like a small town in India, the people that owned the guest house drove me to the hospital, small hospital. And they were doing CPR on me. And when I got there, they checked my vitals for 2 minutes and there was nothing. And the doctor was like, she's gone, And he's like, you get those paddles or like, I will get them. And the guy was like, okay, fine. And they gave me 4 paddles and a shot of adrenaline and my heart started again.
So you were dead?
So yeah, I was gone.
Yeah. So now I know it's been 10 years, but how do you process that? Like, you were actually dead.
You know what, to be honest, like I haven't. I think that's one of the reasons I carried it. Like I don't even know what to do with that. It's such a unique experience, Like I saw the tunnel and I'm not a religious person at all, but I just remember being in this white space and the woman who owned the guest house was very close with me. Like we had a real bond from the beginning, an Indian woman. I wasn't myself. I was just in this empty, hollow, lonely place, seeing this light. And all of a sudden it was like there was this smokiness on the side and her head popped through the smoke.
Really?
And she said to me, Erin. I turned and looked at her and I said, Rupa, what's happened? And she said, you're very sick. And then that was it. That's all I remember. And next thing I woke up. And apparently the doctor said that because the shot of adrenaline, like when I got to the hospital, it must have fully kicked in. And I sat straight up in bed, had this conversation with her, and then fell back down into a coma.
So that conversation was real?
Yeah, totally real. It was like
And then,
she like pulled me back.
and then you go into a coma for how long?
6 hours.
And when you get out of the coma and you have sort of your wits about you at some point, are you,
Mhm.
I always ask these questions
Yeah.
often, right? Like, what's it like to want to die and not be dead?
Confusing,
Yeah.
humiliating,
Mm.
to be found out, suddenly all of it is on the table. So much shame and guilt for what I would have put my daughter through. I would have flashbacks of, her sitting in bed, well, flash forwards, I guess, crying for me and me not being there. Like I just had, like, it almost made me feel nauseous to be able to even sit and think about it, and just disgust with myself that would have been something that I considered doing.
But there's no love.
No, no. And no anger that I wasn't dead. Because I mean, I do believe, like, and this is my own personal belief, but like if I woke up, I'm supposed to wake up. So,
Yeah.
and I had to believe, based on all of the things that I learned about the circumstances that happened while I was out of it, that it all was like, it was all miraculous in my mind. Like there was a lot of things that needed to happen in order for me to wake up in that hospital. Pieces and people. And it's like, okay, maybe I wanted to go, but my body didn't. My heart wanted to start. I wasn't mad, but I was so incredibly embarrassed and guilty. It was just like, insane.
And all the stuff that you were dealing with before that happened, you're still dealing with.
It's been my biggest work for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't get undone now that you get through that. You're still going through. That's the last 10 years for you of sort of.
Well, you would think that would scare me straight, but like I said, the weight of the emotion and the guilt and the shame, I could not even look at. So I fell harder into my addiction after that.
Okay. Are you in India still, or are you back?
No, we had come back to Canada. That just kind of got worse. Now, not only did I have all of the childhood trauma and unresolved stuff, now I also had this, suicide attempt piece to process. For 5 years, it was just got worse and worse and worse. And then when I was 36, I guess I had a really bad night of using drugs. I was using them when my daughter was there, which was, again, like, it's all just so much freaking guilt. It's like, it's even just hard to like admit to. I don't remember the night. Like I was drinking and like I was just out of it. And in the morning, all of a sudden, I remember she shook me awake in this really aggressive, like kind of worried, frantic sort of state. And at this time she was 10, I guess. I got up and I was like, what's your problem? Like I was just very confused as to why she seemed so upset by however it is that she found me in my bed. And I dropped her off at school. I came back. I got a call because I was kind of in an outreach program, like for trying to sort myself out without going into full rehab. Yeah. And they said that they had gotten the information, child services, they were going to be coming by. And I thought, my ex is going to find out. Everybody's going to find out. Like that was kind of my bottom I hit. I thought, that's it. They're going to take my daughter, So I called rehab and I threw a bunch of crap in my bag and I was off to rehab for 2 months. But first thing, I had to go to a detox. And I remember going in the bathroom with this bag of stuff, which I'd kind of straightened out after 24 hours. And I didn't know what I had packed. And I pulled out these 2 papers and I started reading it. It was a suicide note to my daughter. I must have written the evening before in my, I don't even, because I wasn't even there. I was just like, same thing. And it was like, so like I read it and it was like, I didn't even know who had written that, it was just like written by this other version of myself that was obviously in so much pain that it's like, I couldn't even see outside of my own into what other people would experience if I would do that, like my daughter, And I remember seeing that and like feeling a shock, a vibration go through my body that was something I had been considering 24 hours ago. And the reason she probably woke me up in such a frantic state is I probably did not look good. I'm got to assume maybe I looked dead to her, So I remember getting that paper and I crumpled it up and threw it in the garbage. And I was like, this is fucking done. Like this is done. I need to get my shit together, and that was it. 2 months. I went to rehab, turned over every dusty stone, owned all of it, looked at all of it, and really put 200% into rebuilding this relationship with my daughter. And now 5 years later, I am a health and life coach. My daughter and I are so strong. She is my biggest fan. She's just amazing. I'm so proud of her. I just adore her. And, I'm in a really healthy relationship, getting married. It's like my life is a complete 180. It's crazy. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. But that suicide letter I wrote, that was like, yeah, it just always seemed like there was one more thing that was the kick in the pants I needed. And that second possibility of an attempt that might have happened was, I don't even, maybe I did attempt it. Maybe that's why I looked so dead to her. I don't really know, but I know I read the letter and like a dream, remember writing it. So yeah.
How many people other than your daughter, your ex, the Indian woman whose name I forget, and medical professionals know about either of those attempts?
The first one, everybody, pretty much, because, it came out. Because I was a mess, obviously, when I got back. Like, my ex was a mess. Like, there was obviously something very bad that had happened. So just came clean about it. And the second one, one friend of mine and my fiance know about that letter. Never told anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm asking because I'm always curious how people respond when they learn. You attempted suicide. And,
yeah.
Do you have any memories of people, how they responded to you, how they engaged with you?
It's funny when to me, suicide, like I said at the beginning, it's like a complete disconnect from others and from myself. And I remember the people that I did tell when I would sit with them and we would have the conversation is when I would say it, I felt them disconnect. Like I felt this severe discomfort. It's like what am I supposed to say to that? What is the right thing to say? So then you feel even more alone in telling people. So I think I got to the point where I just stopped. Like, it's not something I ever talk about. I just put it in my back pocket, like I said, and I thought this is going to be useful someday, sometime, somewhere. I'll just wait and see where that's supposed to go, And then, with this kind of recent realization I had, I thought, maybe now is the time. Maybe now this is supposed to crack open for a reason. So I'm here and open to sharing, still uncomfortably, but.
Sure. And I would imagine when you think about, this podcast doesn't have a huge reach, but there are listeners, and you never know who's listening.
Yeah, right listeners.
I would imagine the right listeners, exactly. I would imagine there might be party that's thinking, going all in on the health and relationship coaching, right? Mm-hmm. They can't know about that. They're not going to hire me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I really struggle with how much vulnerability should I have with my clients,
Right.
Yeah. I remember saying something to my partner now about my bio on my site. I was like, what should I go into? And I mentioned some things and he's like, I don't know. Do you think people are going to want to hire a coach that's like a recovered drug addict? It's like, oh, maybe not. It's very hard to say. And I've never told any of my clients that I attempted suicide.
No. Yeah.
But I've mentioned casually, sort of, being in rehabs, struggling with a drug addiction, but always more in passing versus this is my story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of suss it out as I go. Like if they say something that I feel connected to, that I think my story, a small portion of my story, expertly chosen on my part, might help. Yeah. I just find it makes so many people so uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that a thing you hear?
Everybody I spoke to, and there are some people I talked to who still plan to kill themselves.
Yeah. Wow.
Not a lot, but some of them have this sort of awareness of like 50-50. I'll be realistic about it, and other people are presumably in the clear, not to suggest their lives are easy, but they're not, that's not a thing. But most people, I think most of them are from what they've shared, are not advertising it or getting a tattoo saying, I tried to kill myself, right?
Yeah, 2010 attempt.
Yeah, whatever your hashtag is.
I think, as you say that, the drug addict of me wanted to kill herself. The me now, the recovered me, has no interest. Not even on my radar,
Don't think about it. Don't ideate.
No, I see that as something my previous self did. And because I didn't know how to solve my own pain, and it's really been through coaching, like rehab for sure. But along my journey of healing, I met a few key people that, like we said, like they saw me beyond where I was. And they were like, of course you're going to get through this. Like they were so confident. I think I borrowed some of that from them until I had enough of my own. And wow, those few people, I just feel so grateful for. Like they literally saved my life,
Really? Do they know that?
Yeah, I've told them, yeah. They want to brush it off, right? It's like, oh, you've done all the work, but it's like,
Right.
no,
But that's like a great coach, right?
Yeah, I know.
Those are models for me too in coaching work where it's like they don't realize the impact, or perhaps they do, but they're not taking no credit for it. Those are the coaches I love, not a lot of the coaches. And I'm sure you have come across many in the online space who are just all about how amazing they are. That's not
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe this experience that I had, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
Very, very, very humbling. And that's the biggest thing I find. It always keeps me in my place, almost in a way.
Did you have to quit drugs and alcohol?
I drink.
Yeah.
Now I don't take drugs, but I had to really decide like what I wanted my version of recovery to look like. Like I didn't feel like I fit the mold.
Sure.
I wanted to do it my own way, which my rehab was very against.
Sure.
But I'm stubborn, and I knew I just wanted to get back to the real me, like who I was really. And that's somebody that is unencumbered by rules, and I don't like to put myself in a box. And I don't want to identify with being an addict either. I don't even want to be a recovered addict. Like I'm just not an addict. I'm just Erin. Now. And that's the same thing. That's a personal choice. I know that definitely doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
But I just live my life now, and I'm just here now. You're not there.
Here, not there, and don't want to die. What was your foray, I suppose, not the best word, into coaching?
Oh, well, I was a chef my whole life, working in kitchens, also not the healthiest environment. After rehab, I wanted to just keep in cooking, but not working in kitchens. So I started doing personal chefing.
Mm-hmm.
I found that I really loved the connection with the people that I cooked for. And I started looking into maybe doing, because I knew I'm like, I can't do this forever. Like it's very, very tiring. It's very hard on the body. And I always wanted to use my brain more than I felt like I was. I decided I would maybe go into nutrition coaching, helping people with meal plans and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so I found a nutrition health coaching program that offered a dual certificate with life coaching. Wow. And I found when I started doing it, the life coaching was like more my jam. Right. I was more interested in how the brain works and, rewiring your mind and, shame and how to process heavy emotions. I just kind of like took a left turn and dove deeply into that world. And I love it. It's like my freaking dream job. I'm so happy. Yeah.
And you made it happen. That's cool.
Yeah. With lots of support. Yeah. It's great.
I told you one of the questions I ask most people that I talk to is, and I think I know your answer, but I'll still ask, any chance that you think you'll be back in that space of writing a note and disappearing?
No, for sure not. I think my attempt it was my solution to a problem that I had, and same thing with the drugs. The drugs were just a solution to these problems that I had. And, going through rehab, and really since I came to coaching 3 years ago, it's like I have all these new solutions.
Yeah.
And they work way better. I don't need those solutions anymore. They're old and they didn't work.
They didn't work well then.
They just made it worse. The pain.
Drugs are a beast, man.
Yeah, they are. It still seems very fresh.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, just like a hand of fingers. maybe the further I get away from it, I'll have this belief that it's more appropriate to talk about. Maybe it freaks myself out when I talk about it because I know it's only 5 years ago. Like, who knows what other people are thinking? It refreshes my mind, and that makes me feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
But I think I maybe just need a bit more space in between that second attempt and now, or wherever I currently would be, in order to feel not so vulnerable by it. But I don't know, maybe talking about it now and whatever reason this is all coming up, maybe that's a part of it, you know?
And maybe it's where it is where it'll stay. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Do the people in your life, do they treat you differently now? Post kid gloves or whatever that looks like? That's a common thing, I wonder.
No, I would say that those relationships are just stronger because of what I went through. And even if, like, let's say they don't know the gruesome details of it, they know the lessons that I've taken from it. Like, they're aware of what I learned and grew from it without really needing to know the details. Like, to sit down and talk about the story, they know, oh, that bad thing happened and now this is how she is. And they kind of appreciate that about me. And I just find and especially lately, because like I was saying to you, like, as I've been coaching, the more my walls start to come down just from having to do my own self-work so that I can show up as the best coach that I am. In order for that, other people's, like my clients, seem to be getting more results. I am also bringing up my stuff and getting kind of more results. Like it's all coming to the surface kind of as it's supposed to. And I find my relationships that I'm having are growing so much more deeper. Like, if I felt alone before, I definitely do not feel alone now. I feel extremely connected to who I am and proud and, appreciative of the type of person that I am in order to be able to get to this place. And also the connections I have with the friends that I do, my tight circle, and my mom and my daughter especially are like rock solid. So that's the other thing. Like, if I attempted because of disconnection and a sense of aloneness, like, I don't have that at all anymore. I would always have someone to turn to talk to, someone that I could be really vulnerable with where I'm at if I couldn't sort it out on my own. I can feel pretty confident in that.
I think that's I've deduced after doing this for 11 months, that's the thing that makes the difference more than one thing, is that you have at least one or two people in your life who you really can connect to, lean on, give and get. You can't do it alone. I'm not preaching. This is just my take on things. Like, you do it alone, you're 90% fucked.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, totally agree.
Not my language, of course, but it's my podcast, so I can use the F-bombs.
No, it's kind of like you're the sick helping the wounded, when you're trying to help yourself. It's like, that's kind of how it felt. And that was the thing, is I was so fiercely independent growing up, just always thought I could solve my own problems, but they were problems created by other people, of course, because I was in this like victim-y state, but I never wanted to let on that anything was wrong. And I think, like you mentioned, a lot of my tattoos is like armor. It's like a protection, because I'm small, and kind of made me seem a bit more intimidating. So I never wanted to admit what was really going on underneath. And I was very good at it. I got away with drug addiction for a long time because of that. Really getting to the point where I cannot sort this, stuff out. Like, I need help, and trusting that other people want to help me, authentically invested in wanting to help me, not just like, oh, okay, I guess, right? Like, I'm burdening somebody, which I kind of felt before. I didn't want to cause anybody any trouble, in a way, stress anyone out. But when I got to a point where I realized, no, like, people love you and want to support you and help you, you need to let them, because I wasn't doing it on my own. That's for sure.
What else helps you day to day? I'm curious, are you a meditator? Are you, what are the little things that maybe if someone hears this, they've probably heard it before, but what are some of the things that help you get through your days and feel good, feel okay at least?
First thing I would say is not to take myself too seriously. I try to really, I have a daughter, like a kid. Maybe that makes it a bit easier to be silly and playful. And I try to be goofy with her. I try to act silly and not care, like not be worried about what she would think, just to kind of show her and show myself that like nothing is that big of a deal. I try to have that bit of an attitude about it. Life. I exercise, like I exercise 4 to 5 times a week. And I get outside, I try to get outside every day for sure. But I find the exercise is really like, I can feel if after 3-4 days I haven't done anything, I start to feel it in my brain,
Yeah.
Yeah. So staying active is probably at the top of my list of self-care stuff. Something I really learned like in rehab was like, it's 3 pillars. It's sleeping, eating, and getting some activity. And I never really understood the importance of those. Yeah, getting a proper sleep, trying to stay on a sleep schedule, eating 3 meals a day, like 3 healthy meals a day, drinking water, and exercising. Like if I don't have those, then, and I'm not feeling well, then really like there's nothing to do except go back to those and then reassess. Like if I'm having an overly emotional day or I don't know, just feeling kind of down, I'm always like, how did I sleep? Have I exercised? Do I need a drink? When did I last eat? Like I check in all those things all the time. And it's very grounding to kind of keep those at the forefront.
Like they're measurable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not like, what am I thinking? It's tricky, but did I eat food this morning that, isn't,
Yeah. And I love to be social. Like I love my alone time for sure. But I love hanging out with friends. I love having fun. I love to dance, love to spend lots of time outside, go to festivals and be in nature, dance, and just really always keep my youthfulness in mind. Like those days of being a kid when everything was easy and for me, easy and free and there was no worries. And I try to tap into that kind of inner child energy like as often as I can.
Wow.
Like if I'm having fun, it's all good. And if it's not fun, then I say to myself, I need to do something else. And I don't mean fun like woo, but it's like even, being an entrepreneur is difficult.
Yeah.
It comes with a lot of self-doubt and some shame, etc. But still fun because I'm building my business. So
there's just so much to it that I think that mindset is so important because you could so easily get burnt out or overwhelmed, confused, etc. It's just there's a lot. So kudos to you for trying to do it. It sounds like you enjoy it mostly.
Yeah.
And it's the right thing for you to be doing. Like it just is. When you find it pretty sweet, you're like, no.
I try to keep things simple now.
But if I had said that to you or someone you knew really well said that to you 10 years ago, it doesn't land that.
No, totally.
It's simple. It's like, great. That platitude just doesn't work. So when you're ready, you're ready. And when you're not, though, it's really tricky, right?
Yes.
And I think about people listening to this podcast, like, what would you, and I asked this question, but I'm kind of getting away from it a little bit. Like, what would you tell people or share with people who are listening? And I think, great, but does it make a difference, really? If you're ready to hear something, you're ready. If you're not, though, it's just rhetoric.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out what to do with those lines of questions I have, but I guess I feel like when people hear this, they'll hear what they need to hear.
Yeah.
And it'll stick. What needs to stick will stick,
Yes. Yes, totally. I would say the exact same thing as you just said. Like I've talked about it with, friends who've struggled with addiction. And I say like, it's going to be done when it's done. Yeah. And until then, you just have to keep trying. Like that's my biggest kind of tenet with my coaching and my mission is just to try to support people to believe in themselves and to keep going.
Yeah.
Like you just have to keep going. And like the only reason we're never there yet is because we decide to stop trying. And I was somebody that I just kept going. I was just like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? That was really the thing that made the biggest difference for me to get through that is a willingness, which, that can be a hard thing with, I think, people that get in a depressed place. Where I was, I didn't want to go anymore. I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to keep going. Having somebody that saw me beyond where I was huge. To find somebody who could see me outside of myself see these things about myself that I was convinced were not a thing.
Yeah.
Like I trusted him. I was like, well, if my counselor thinks these things and he's awesome, I kind of just had to borrow his belief for a while and keep going. Like I said, he would say that to me, like, you just keep trying. So I just kind of kept that in my mind.
And you're here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of your coaching business?
Just Erin Martin Coaching.
And behind Erin, she's a lovely little office. I think it's an office.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's feng shui, but it's very chill. Nice photo, nice picture. And there's a framed something or other. It says, peace of mind comes piece by piece.
My daughter painted it for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. One step at a time, seems so big. I think that was the other thing about recovery. Seems so large. It's like, can't even imagine starting or trying to do just one small thing at a time and understand that, it's just little bites on the way. It helps to bring me a sense of patience and like calm when the next journey seems just a little bit too big to like wrap my head around,
So much truth there. And a really tough one to get.
I know.
For building a business, this is, whether it doesn't need to be a business, even a hobby, every day or whenever it is, a little bit, and it adds up.
Yeah.
It adds up.
Yeah.
So easy to sort of say, I've got to bite off this big thing right now. And with that, you kind of never get anything done.
Totally.
A little bit. It doesn't take that long. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, there's some change going on here. Kind of cool.
Yeah, you get a bit of momentum, and all of a sudden, it's like, how the hell did I get here?
Okay. Thank you so much for joining, for talking and sharing so openly. And I am glad, check out this corny analogy I'm about to make. I am glad that this little piece you have chosen to share with me and whoever hears this podcast. So thank you for this episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much for holding space and allowing me to process even more as we're speaking. So I really appreciate it.
An honor. Yeah.
My big reason I came to coaching is just to help people feel less alone.
Erin, oh my God.
That was really my thing.
Wait, did you hear me say that?
No?
That's mine. You just took mine.
No, get out of here.
My thing is all about, even with story stuff, it's about, yeah, cool. Your story can be entertaining. That's great. All that matters. All we're doing here is helping people or creating a space for people to feel less shitty. That's part of mine. And less alone. Those are my two.
Yeah.
Less shitty, less alone. If you've done that, we're good. We're good. We've accomplished what we want. And in the process, the real beautiful symbiosis is that when that happens for me, I feel less shitty and less.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, why would I not do that? Of course I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm so glad that's your MO, because
yeah,
you can't fuck it up. I mean, sure, you might not have great branding. I don't know. Discovery calls might not be.
I don't do discovery calls, don't worry.
Yeah, whatever, like all that stuff. But if that's really your, I mean, you don't need to hear this from me, but if that's your MO, man.
Yeah, I know I felt alone for so much of my life.
Yeah.
I've reflected many times on why and lots of reasons, but I just always had this deep sense of loneliness.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, like, I used to act out for attention when I was young, because I just always was trying to fill this need, right? And I don't know why, I don't really know why so much, but coming through the work and like being on this other side of it, I really feel for people that feel like that. Like, I just I fucking know that feeling, and man, look at where it leads to trying to kill yourself. If I can help people feel less alone for an hour a week, let's do it.
I don't blow smoke, but I am almost sure they know that you feel that way. It shows, really usually shows with people, and it usually shows when they don't feel that way. I hope you never lose that, even when you blow up and become the famous I'm Erin with this huge podcast and massive following. Don't forget.
No, never. I got that humble pie in my back pocket, so it's good.
Then thank you again, and I hope your day is much.
Yeah, so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Have a good day. Talk sooner.
Okay, bye.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support, and special thanks to Erin up in Ontario, Canada. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to share your story, I'd love to talk. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com or on Facebook or Twitter @suicidenoted. That is all for episode number 67. Stay strong. Do the very best you can. I'll talk to you soon.